let's get into our personal Spider-Man rankings. So there's 10 films, and to Amanda's disapproval on the ignoring the Venoms of the world and the Morbius of the world.
You have to ignore them.
Yeah,
No,
I think it's the best thing possible.
Come on, I'm not gonna say anything. Like, you know what I mean. That one didn't ignore it. That's fine.
Yeah, we're gonna pretend that those films are in a whole nother universe, but we are focusing on all the live action films, which would include the Tobey Maguire the trilogy with Sam Raimi, the 2 Spider-Man film with Andrew Garfield and Mark Webb, and then of course the trilogy with Tom Holland, and now the 2 films that we have with Miles Morales. So live action, animated is how we're gonna do it. And we're going to each do our 6 through 10. And we can give our reasons why it's number 10, why it's number 6. And, maybe we can all commentate on where we think the film is and whatnot. And then from there, we'll go 6 through 10, 5 through 2, and then we'll all reveal our number ones. And then we'll pivot into the second half of this video, which is the tier list. So any takers? Does anyone want to go first with their list starting off with their 10 through 6?
Amanda messaged me offline. She says she wants to go first.
Okay, I think I got that same message. So
yeah,
Amanda, you're kicking it off.
Cahoots. I don't
in the best way possible, which again is going to be 6 through 10 of how you would place the Spider-Man films. Stage is on you, Amanda.
You guys are gonna get so mad right off the
bat. Starting from 10.
Starting from 10.
Okay, let me start from 10. Okay, thank God. Okay, so I have Spider-Man 2 in 10th spot.
Okay.
I know.
Wait. No. You heard her.
Wait.
Amazing Spider-Man 2. Sorry.
Nah,
Amazing Spider-Man 2. Sorry.
Elliot,
shocking right off the bat.
Because you didn't have the reaction I thought you would have.
Because I assumed she was talking about Amazing Spider-Man, but then when she said Spider-Man,
but just not.
Elliot gets me. Gets me. It's okay.
So we're talking
the
Andrew
Amazing
Garfield,
Spider-Man.
the amazing. Okay, gotcha. And then if you want to, any thoughts on the film, like what makes it come to the bottom of your list for you?
I felt it was overly long. I felt like it was messy, even though Mark Webb really just captured a completely different side of Spidey visually, which we didn't get with the technological side of it. I think that's the difference. Like Sam Raimi's, obviously it's different filmmaking, but visually, like what he offered for Spider-Man's amazing. Obviously, but I kind of blocked it out too because of the Gwen Stacy death, because that absolutely destroyed me. Again, I didn't read the comics at the time, so I didn't know that.
So that was just a complete nice.
Thing. So I'm like, I hate this movie. I was younger. I'm like, I hate this. Why would you kill Gwen that way? You know what I mean? So that's why it's at number 2. I've rewatched it as I older, and it just still has the same issues that I would have said. In 9th, I have The Amazing Spider-Man. So the 2 of them are just at the I know, but I love Andrew Garfield. I know. I'm just but this shot, you know what I mean? Again, visually, it's so good. The story for me is just, it drags. It's just the pacing. It was kind of boring at times, and I'm sorry. The villain wasn't that great either. I think they could have written him better. Then in 8th, I have Spider-Man 3, because that's also controversial, because I really like Spider-Man 3, to be perfectly honest. I love the whole, like the black suit was everything. And I remember playing it on my PlayStation 2, the video game, obsessed with it. I did not put that thing down, and I loved it. I loved that there were multiple villains as well. I thought Sandman had a really strong story. The dancing was great. I didn't care. I thought when he just went with the black hair, everything, I'm like, this is cool. This is fun, But I vibed with it. I liked it. I know that it's controversial because it's ahead of the Mark Webb films, but it could have gone higher. It kind of did some switching around. In 7th, I have Spider-Man Homecoming.
Okay. Tom Holland's first outing in the MCU.
It annoyed me because look who's in the poster. Look who's in the poster.
All right.
Spider-Iron.
Fam, that literally pissed me off to no end. It was more of an Iron Man film, and Spider-Man's supposed to be his own hero. Every single time that he was fighting someone in Homecoming, Tony Stark swooped in, saved him. This is a Spider-Man movie. What are we doing here? I know that he's a kid, but he can still do something on his own. That's why I didn't like Homecoming. I thought the jokes, the humor for me at that time with the MCU was really wonky and hard to sit through. I just couldn't. And now I'm going to go to number 6.
Let's hear it.
And it's Spider-Man 2 sitting at number 6.
Okay.
I do not like Spider-Man 2 that much. Another controversial thing. I have a thing where I don't like when the hero's losing his powers. It bothers me. They did it with Iron Man 2, kind of. I don't like it. I want to see the hero in like top, like peak. That's also why Doctor Strange bothers me too. It's like I want high power, and I understand that he has to struggle with it. I get that, but it was just there was something about Spider-Man 2 just didn't sit well with me. And every time I watch it and I try to like it, I can pinpoint the time where it falls out for me and I get annoyed with it. So yeah, that's 6 to 10, my friends.
All right, so we had Amazing Spider-Man 2, Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man 3, Homecoming, and then Spider-Man 2. Interesting.
Yes. It's interesting.
Cool. Well, I mean, Chris, you're the second guest, so I'm gonna have you go next. But any thoughts on Amanda's list? I think it's surprisingly enough,
based on
mine, it's pretty similar. Amanda, I'll be honest.
My facial expressions, like my list is very close. It's
okay.
There's one thing that's kind of a hot take, but it's a very similar list. I think her list has good reasoning, and like as far as Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 2 is not in my 6 through 10, but I do think people hype it up a little. And I'm not gonna lie. I don't even know the last time I've seen it, but people are regarding this as like one of the best. Like this is like the Dark Knight. Like it is not. So I'll start with my 10. My 10 is the same as Amanda's. How cute is that? Cute is that?
I love
my 10 is the Amazing Spider-Man 2. And let me be clear, like any of these movies are on TV, I'll watch them. But this is the worst one of the bunch. I love Garfield as Spider-Man. I hated Jamie Foxx in this movie. I hated throwing the rhino in at the end. There's heart in this movie. So this movie is kind of like how y'all would drag Dark World, where it's like the movie's kind of whack, but it has some heavy moments. So like the Gwen thing, I didn't watch the comic or read the comics. So like that's heavy. So it's like a worth watch for those moments. But I thought those villains were so terrible. Like it has to be number 10. Number 9, Spider-Man 3. She has that in her bottom 10. Spider-Man 3 is a movie how I feel the same way about X-Men 3. Overhated. Not the worst movie ever. I'll watch it if it's on. It actually was on last week, and I did watch a lot of that movie. Number 8 is Spider-Man Far From Home. Yeah. Let's get into that. I think the ranking Homecoming worse than Far From Home is kind of crazy. Homecoming was cute and like a real nice intro for Tom Holland. Yes, Iron Man's there. That's fine. But it is kind of an origin story or like an early story. So it's like, this dude needs help, man. You can't be saving. It's unrealistic to be saving a city as a kid, man. You're in high school. You can't just do all that stuff on your own.
Meanwhile, Miles is saving the universe at 15.
Point.
So I have Far From Home is not a whack movie. The villain was cool. The twist was great. The visuals are fire. Yeah. Like I said, any movies of these come on TV, I'm watching them. So I have 7. Maybe this is probably my hottest take, is that I have 7 is Homecoming and 6 is The Amazing Spider-Man. So I enjoyed The Amazing Spider-Man a lot. I love Garfield. I just hated the fact that he fumbled the freaking girl bag and ruined the prom. Yeah, but that Amazing Spider-Man gets the nod because we didn't want a new Spider-Man, and he came out and he was like, "Look, I'm here too." And we fell in love with that story. We fell in love with Keaton all over again. We fell in love with that twist because no one saw that coming. And people that watch movies like us all the time, it's hard to catch us slipping, and they caught us slipping. So Spider-Man Homecoming, I thought was a great movie. Those movies, like I have them both at like 4 out of 5 stars. So like it's kind of like just like a little bit, it's like they're very close. But Homecoming I loved, and we all love Stark. Well, I guess we don't all love Stark. I love Stark. But Amazing Spider-Man, the one thing I would say about the Andrew Garfield universe was that he never felt nerdy. Like Peter Parker is supposed to be a little nerdy. Andrew Garfield always felt like a cool kid in class. And I'm like, if I'm a nitpick on this movie that I love, that I like a lot, is the only thing is I'm gonna say is like he's a little too cool. Toby was definitely a nerd, and Tom Holland was a little less nerdy than Toby, but still like Andrew Garfield was never nerdy. And Gwen was the hottest nerd I've ever seen ever. So these were like two hot kids that were supposed to be science nerds. But if I put that aside, these are that's 10 through 6.
So correct me if I'm wrong. We got Spider-Man 3.
Amazing Spider-Man 2, number 10.
Amazing Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3.
Spider-Man 3, number 9.
Yeah.
Spider-Man Far From Home, 8. Spider-Man Homecoming, 7. Amazing Spider-Man 6.
Interesting. Amanda, what do you think about our boys Chris list there? Especially with, I know Far From Home might be one that you want to bring up. Maybe it's too far down his list.
It is too far down his list. That hurt my soul. How dare you? No, I think it's pretty solid. I think it depends like where we like either Andrew or Tom and their storylines. And I think that we're all on the same level except for Far From Home, and how that worked out in the bottom, but it's roughly the same. So I'm okay with it, except for, one of my favorites. So it's pretty fun, I guess. It's okay.
I like it. Well, hey, I love it. That was Amanda's 6 through 10 and Chris's 6 through 10. So by all means, it's now time for me to share mine. And like I said, with Amanda and Chris, we share pretty similar things. My number 10 is Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think you all hit it on the head with it. It does have some, I guess I'll speak more to the positive of it all. I think Amanda alluded to it, some great visuals. I will always stand by that. I think Andrew Garfield has like probably the best Spider-Man suit and also the best like Spider-Man, like swinging through New York and the quick bits that he would do. Like I feel like he's a great Spider-Man. Yeah. To Chris's point, and we'll talk about it with Amazing Spider-Man, the Andrew, as far as like Peter Parker of it all, just felt a little, didn't really meet the molding of the character that I personally like from Peter Parker. But if I'm being honest, I think the best actor out of all of them is Andrew Garfield. So I think he was able to pull off certain things. So we all know the negatives, too many villains. Harry Osborn was trash. I love Dane DeHaan, but he was just terrible as the villain.
So bad.
I'm so glad Jamie Foxx is doing good health-wise because he's one of the greatest actors of our generation, just greatest talents. But he was, I don't know if it was his fault or if it was Mark Webb's direction, but Electro, not good. And then the whole like setting up the Sinister Six and Rhino, it's just, it's a messy film with some highlights, but still just not collectively good for me. That brings us to, and it sucks because again, I think this is the best actor out of the group, but unfortunately, Amazing Spider-Man was my number 9. Amanda said it earlier. I think this film is so boring, Chris. I think it is so boring. The villain is so trash. Connor as a lizard and like an actor, but it was just like, and the look, the CGI has not been friendly to that film at all. I will give the thing that saves it for me, Chris, is Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield. That chemistry is just magnetic. It's just great chemistry across the board, which, history, as we all know, they did date in real life. So they definitely can, they were method acting, I guess you could say. But yeah, it's just a boring film. Moments, again, great Spider-Man whips, him slinging through New York, Gwen's dad dying in the first one, it was an emotional moment because Peter always wants to save someone, but it's just a boring movie for me, and I don't rewatch it that often, which brings us into my number 8, which I don't get the hate, because I have, like, as I've gotten older and the more I revisit it, I laugh every time I watch this movie, and that is Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man 3 is hilarious. Like, I look at it now as like a comedy, not only from the dance sequences that you guys mentioned, but all the Harry Osborn stuff is so funny. The eating the pie and looking back at Peter. Oh, it tastes so good. Like,
let me tell you, because Ellie, I know you watch a lot of basketball.
Yes.
As soon as my team wins against one of my friends,
I
don't send no other gift besides that turning around.
Oh my goodness.
I don't send no other gift. If my team beats you, bro, you're getting that one gift.
It's an all-timer. It's an all-timer. And the smirk.
I just had to say that.
It's a great meme. It's a great gift, man. But seriously though, the first half is pretty excellent for me. The rest of the stuff, Venom being thrown in, and we all know the history with the studio interference with Sam Raimi. But that first fight with Harry and Peter before he loses his memory and they're fighting in the streets, like, that's a pretty visceral, serious fight. And then I know everyone pokes fun of emo Spider-Man or Peter Parker, but when he went into his cave and he found out who Spider-Man was and he threw that goblin bomb at Harry and he was like, he just walked away like, dude, that's your best friend that you just assumedly just left dead. There's some moments, and I'll end on this. Sandman's a pretty sympathetic villain. Like, I really enjoyed Sandman's story in that film. I honestly think they should have just kept it to Sandman, even though I had fun with Harry. but Venom was not needed, as we can all agree with, even though the suit's pretty badass and what it did to Peter was badass. But
was needed.
Topher Grace,
God tier. I love Topher. That was so funny. He just made me laugh. I'm like, you're so small.
Messy stuff going on there, but like I said, I get a kick out of Spider-Man 3. So that's my number 8, which brings us into number 7. Amanda, I'm sorry, but I agree with Chris.
No.
Far from my enjoyment. I do not like. Mysterio's great. The Mysterio Spider-Man fight with him in his mind, great. Everything else, I get that they want to be cool and hip and take Spider-Man out of New York. Come on, man. It was so much more to me, and this is kind of like Amanda alluded to earlier, the crime of Spider-Man in the MCU. Some great moments, but it's just he's so ingrained in the MCU that it felt more like a sequel to Endgame than it did like an actual Spider-Man film, because the reason he's going out of the country is because he's mourning Tony Stark and he's trying to replace Tony Stark or be in the it's like, goodness gracious, can the man just be a Spider-Man for one movie, which we'll talk about No Way Home a little bit later, but I'm not the biggest fan of it. It's of course it has the the funny jokes of them going overseas and falling in love with MJ, which I do think Zendaya finally got her moment to shine as MJ, but everything else, they made Spider-Man dumb to me. Like I'll never forget, and Spider-Man's intelligent. We all know that, but like it was almost like slapstick comedy when he was on the bell fighting the elementals and he's like hitting his head on the bell. Like, what is this? Is this the Three Stooges? They dumbed Peter down to me, and don't even get me started, Amanda, on the glasses. Given a stranger that you just met a day ago, the glasses of this technology. And the bus scene, it's a weird movie, and I do not have fun with it.
But, especially if you're mourning Tony, and that's the last gift he gave you, even if it was like a postcard, you're gonna keep it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mess. Again, visually it's pretty awesome, but I don't have that much fun.
Good visuals.
Yeah, but number 6, coming in, my number 6 is the OG, which might surprise y'all, and I'm referring to the original Spider-Man 2002, Sam Raimi. Yes, it's a great origin story. Yes, that fight between Spider-Man and Green Goblin is God tier, and Green Goblin, speaking of God tier, is one of the best villains of all time, but it doesn't hold up for me. There's some moments in this film that's just too over the top, and I love the Green Goblin, but that Spider-Man suit, or that Power Rangers looking suit, sometimes just doesn't appease me visually, and it's just some spots that I just feel like it's just a bit dull, and it just doesn't hold up for me. Again, I can respect the origins of it all, kind of classic 1978 with Superman, kind of that everyday person type of just simple story, but it's just too simple for me. So that is coming in at my number 6. So again, to recap, Amazing Spider-Man 2 at my number 10. Number 9 for me is Amazing Spider-Man. Number 8 is Spider-Man 3. Number 7, Far From Home. And number 6 is the 2002 Sam Raimi Spider-Man. So that is our 10 through 6 brings us into, so we did our 6 through 10s. Now it is time for our 5 through 2. And we started with Amanda, so I'm going to bring it to Chris this time and giving us his number 5 through 2 before we reveal our number 1. So, Chris, what is your number 5 Spider-Man film?
I'm gonna be right next to you, bro. I got Spider-Man 1, so we won off from each other. And of course, 5 through 1. Of course, these are all great movies.
Right? These are this is when it's just
I don't watch it a ton, but that movie is I think it's partly uplifted because everyone loves it, but. We love Doc Ock. We love his story. And it was a good follow-up. It's like in the world of like people hating on sequels, it was a great follow-up and better than Spider-Man. Definitely better than Spider-Man 1. Number 3, I got the new one. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Number 3. Okay. Yeah. All right.
I need to watch it again.
Yeah.
And of course, we have to recognize that it's only half of a 2-part thing.
Right.
But those graphics, I think I tweeted about it. These graphics are crazy. The writing is crazy good. The characters are great. The voice acting is great. And if I'm nitpicking, I'm gonna say maybe a little long. And I would say you have to really like follow. Like anything multiverse, you gotta really follow.
Yeah, it's a lot of moving pieces. Yeah,
but it's just a fire movie, and I'm really excited to see the ending. Like what it really built up. Like some movies start high and then they kind of dip. This one started kind of regular, and it just kept going. So I was like, that's a fire movie to be able to do that. I got number 2, Spider-Man No Way Home, and that's one of my favorite MCU movies. I think after the Infinity War, after the End Games, I think this is the only movie since then to have like those moments where we're like, okay, that's major.
Right.
Rumors, whatever. We thought that this would happen, but still, even with rumors, seeing that on screen was crazy to me. They pulled it off. The movie was fire. And maybe it's uplifted because Phase 4 as a whole was kind of mid.
Kind of shaky.
But I remember that movie came out in a time where like it was like COVID was like at an all-time high, and I was like,
and everyone was like,
go.
Freak that! I'm about to go see
Spider-Man. Like, we don't care.
But Spider-Man No Way Home, I got at my number 2 spot.
Number 2. Oh, okay. Awesome! This is a solid list, man. Amanda, on to your 5 through 2. What is that number 5 on your Spider-Man films list?
My number 5 is Far From Home. Like I said, it's a smidge above Spider-Man 2, but I really love Far From Home. I thought it was different. I hate that poster so much. It's the only thing that I'll say against
those. All the posters for that film was horrendous.
So bad.
Please continue.
Literally so bad. But like, I kind of like that they took him out of New York just because beforehand, obviously, like in Infinity War, like he went to space, like he went to all these different places. So I think that taking him out of New York was fine. I love that it was like a cute little Euro trip with his class. And all of the friends were kind of utilized and brought together. And I thought that was really sweet. And he's trying to get MJ. And I love their chemistry. I love their story. So it was really cute how like she ends up finding out the way that she did. So, and it's a different version of MJ. I really like that too. And Zendaya plays it beautifully. I like this humor, unfortunately. It worked for me. It was really funny. I was dying. Like, it's just so cute. It's a lot of fun. I've watched this one the most out of all of them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's really weird. Whenever it's on television, like I will start, like I'll watch it. Like it's the one where I will go back to just because it's like light and fun. And Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio was just top notch for me. But it's also like you said, and we've talked about it, Tony Stark's presence was in it, but he wasn't physically there. And I was okay with it. Thank God. I'm like, you're just thinking about him. It's okay. Like, it's fine. You're just thinking about him. He's not there to save your ass, and that's okay. So that's why Far From Home's 5 for me. 4, I have the original Spider-Man. As much as I love it, it's mainly like it doesn't hold up as you said. It's more nostalgic purposes that makes me like hang on to it. A lot of the action sequences were fire. They still are to this day with the practical effects. I thought they did a really good job with that. And Sam Raimi, so he brought his own touch. MJ wasn't my favorite ever in the entire trilogy, so it's never about MJ or their like romance and like absolutely nothing. But I thought it never was about that. But Tobey Maguire, for me, he just brought such a beautiful side of the character out that I don't want to say that Tom Holland or Andrew Garfield don't do, but it feels like so comfortable seeing him as Peter Parker. Like it was just a feeling that I get. And even his voice, when I hear it, like I still get goosebumps. It's really weird, the effect that he has on me. Like even in No Way Home, I'm just like, oh my God, that's my Spidey, right? So it's just,
I hear you.
It's nuts. And then 3, I have No Way Home because obviously, how do you have all 3 of them? Like we've been gushing about them the entire time.
They actually did it,
And like we knew, but it's fine because people like to leak things online. We knew everything, and it was still amazing in context, so that was great. And then 2, I have Across the Spider-Verse because it blew my mind. I want to go watch it a 3rd time, and I was just giddy as hell. They did justice to every single Spider-Man character, and seeing them all together is just a real treat. And like you said, the references to every version of Spidey, like it's a definitive movie for fans.
Great list, Amanda and Chris. Really great list. So bringing it on to mine, as far as my number 5, I know Amanda wasn't the biggest fan of this film, but I think Chris, it was a perfect word to summarize. It's just a cute film, man. That's Spider-Man Homecoming.
Wow.
It's a really fun. It's cute, but it's also like I just think a really good origin story. Like as you all can see, based on my rankings, it's higher than the original OG for me because number 1. No disrespect, because Hollywood was a lot different during that time, but having a 28-year-old playing a 15-year-old, 16-year-old doesn't hold up for me. And Tom Holland embraces the essence of a teen Spider-Man and dealing with teenager stuff. Like going into the idea of a superhero, want to go to prom, want to hang out when they're on the trip to Washington, D.C. with the debate team, and just seeing that struggle that Peter deals with, which makes him such a grounded character, which I love. And Chris touched on it earlier. One of my favorite MCU villains, which I think is crazy to say, I think is underrated, but Michael Keaton as the Vulture is fire. And it's not even because, like, visually, I think they could have done a little bit more with Vulture and just how, like, aesthetically that would have been cool. Spider-Man and them fighting throughout the movie, but we really only saw like one fight. But the human story of the Vulture is really what sells me on it. It's like and this is when the MCU played well to Spider-Man's universe, like the idea that he was working for his family, getting the Jatari technology and selling on the streets, and then Spider-Man's mucking up everything. So like it makes sense for him to actually hate Spider-Man in this world, which I really enjoyed. And that reveal, like Chris said earlier, still, even I watched it 1,000 times, I still love that reveal when he opens the door and it's Michael Keaton and that whole car scene.
Yeah.
It was cute.
Chef's kiss. I will say too, to your point about teenage actors and stuff, like this is related, but you know, the new Seth Rogen Ninja Turtles, it's the first time that the turtles are voiced by teenagers.
Yeah. Funny enough.
And it's something I never thought of until they actually that's a good point.
I like me some Homecoming. I like it. That's why it's on my number 5. But number 4 is what I think to be one of the best, sequels out there of all time, and that is Spider-Man 2. There are some things that don't hold up entirely, but I think from a number of reasons. But Alfred Molina as Doc Ock and just sympathizing with his redemption arc and understanding, what he did and this mad scientist and the relationship he had as a mentor sorts of Peter. And then I think Amanda and Chris alluded to it. The action to me still stands up. Like this scene here, the train scene is fire. And I mean, the whole idea of his mask coming off and you're our Spider-Man. He's just a kid. And, the secret they kept. It's just a lot of good stuff. And then shout out to Sam Raimi finally allowing him to allow his horror-isms to get into the film. Like I still think of that scene where Doc Ock's arms are operating and killing the doctors is still a fire scene. So I'm a big fan. And like I said, some of the stuff doesn't hold up all the way, but it's still a really great story with Spider-Man 2. So that's my number 4. Number 3, and you guys said it perfectly, so I don't really have too much to add to it, but this was you remember where you was when you saw 3 characters on screen. December of 2021, y'all, like Chris said, I mean, it was at the height of the pandemic, and we were all kind of, iffy about going to the theaters, but it was like, man, I want to see Spider-Man in theaters. And I didn't realize, I knew it made a lot of money, but for some reason I saw the box office randomly last week. That movie made $1.9 billion and I think 800 million domestically. That's crazy in today's streaming. And of course, when it was coming out, people went out in droves and saw that over and over again. Yo.
How much would it have made this year?
Chris, I'm telling you, bro, that would have been.
We should rerun
that was a bigger peak than the OG COVID, because that was the Omicron peak.
Yeah, that's right.
And we was nah, I'm gonna check it out.
I think it was 261 on his opening weekend, Chris. I think it would have been knocking on the door to close to 272, maybe 290, because I think the highest is the Avenger. I think they did 350, which is still crazy to think of, that a movie of almost 3.5 hours made 350 million opening. But it was a crowd pleaser, and I'll never forget what that film did. And I will mention before I move on to my number 2, Green Goblin versus Tom Holland's Spider-Man, and that apartment scene when he's body slamming that fool through the floor, and just the lines, him laughing when he gives him a punch in the face. GOAT.
Nuts.
Green Goblin's a GOAT. I love him so much. But shout out to Spider-Man No Way Home. But that brings me to my number 2, and that is the film that I think caught a lot of us by surprise, and that is Into the Spider-Verse, which came out in 2018.
Nice.
I love this film a lot, very much so. A lot of great things to be said about it, but one of my favorite comic book movies or favorite comic book moments of all time is in this movie, and that is the leap of faith scene. I can watch that every day, all day. It's magical. It is a magical moment, a magical film, and I love it so much. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is my number 2. Amanda, I'm going to have you kick it off. What is your favorite Spider-Man movie of all time?
It's Into the Spider-Verse. I really loved it. I watched it again right before Across the Spider-Verse, and it was bumping. Like the old-fashioned comic book panels. I really like the artistry there. I love that we got an animated Stan Lee too. That just kind of made me tear up a bit because we obviously don't have him anymore for cameos. So to have him in the animated space was a really nice touch. Miles' story is awesome. Like I love the kid, and now like his own trilogy, like I love him in Across the Spider-Verse. Like you're really getting to know him, and he's coming into his own, and I really love that. I love his family. I just love the whole family dynamic. It's really cute and fun, and Jake Johnson is Peter B. Parker. Peter Parker is just next level voice acting, and I love Gwen too. So it feels like a comic book on screen.
Yes.
And you 100%. Can only do that through animation. And I think that more comic books should be turned into animated features like this one. I don't know.
With you more.
I know it takes 8 to 10 years to make these movies.
Yep. I hear you.
But like if we can perfect this animation, like you have to do more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the thing. But I love the soundtrack too. I'll listen to it every day. Even for Across the Spider-Verse, like it was awesome. I love it.
Come on, man. Yeah. It's a fire film. Shout out to Into the Spider-Verse. It was a game changer, Amanda. Like you said, 2018. I remember exactly what was. It was Aquaman, Mary Poppins, Bumblebee. It was obviously when we were all going out to it's a great time of the year to see films with your family. And a little spider came out, and it was Miles Morales, and shook the world. I'll be honest with you all. I love animation, like we talked about up top. How I got introduced to Spider-Man was watching the animated shows, but I don't want to say I don't take animation seriously in that matter. But I was just like, this is going to probably be a fun family animated Spider-Man film. Man, it was much more than that. I mean, of course, it was for the family, and it has a great family story to it. But it was a game changer, like you said, Amanda. And it's baffling that a lot of studios haven't adapted more animated stories, especially DC, which we know their animated movies are fire, but like they never put them out in theaters, which is so weird to me. In Marvel, the same thing. Like their animated stuff isn't the greatest, but it's like you guys have all the resources to your disposal to get writers and animators to create some of this stuff. But you best believe after the success of Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, they're probably like, hey, can we get y'all over here to make us some animated stuff?
Exactly.
So, Into the Spider-Verse is a game changer. Chris, man, I think we might all know, but just in case, you might shock us. What is your number one Spider-Man film of all time?
Well, see, the thing about me and Amanda, it's like Tom and Jerry. They think we're worst enemies, but we're really best friends. So at the end of the day, we all come together for a common good, and it's Into the Spider-Verse. Yeah. And not only do I got my little buddy Miles, we got the OG Gwenny. Come on. And then of course, what inspired this? You don't even know if this is a show up. Look at this. This is my Halloween costume from that year, bro. Yes. Let's talk about it.
Killed
the inspiration.
Listen.
The inspiration. Come on.
Let the campaigns begin. The live action Miles Morales.
Just look at the inspiration.
Look at that.
I'll vote for you.
Listen. It's Into the Spider-Verse. That movie was crazy. I bought it immediately. I watched it a lot. If you need something to throw on, I'll throw that on ASAP. Gwen is fire. The voices are fire. This is my neighborhood, pretty much. Like this is a story that we all like really like attached to, and then just the complicated family dynamic of it all. The freaking Jordans, like it was crazy, man. That's why it's hard for me to even compare it to like the live action ones. And all like, I was like usually keep it separate, but it was crazy. It was crazy, man. Like I didn't even know the Donald Glover story with the whole community.
It goes deep, it cuts deep, man.
Which is crazy, man. And I was man, I was excited to see this new one. 2018 to 2023, 5 years. That's crazy. Yeah. But man, those two together, and then then you get that third.
If they stick the land on that third,
maybe Amanda will dethrone Ant-Man.
I mean, it's already been dethroned. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. It's been dethroned.
But if they stick that landing, if they stick that landing, this will be nuts.
Oh yeah, it's one of the
and I remember, and the last thing I'll say about this, I remember when I was first reading about 2018 Into the Spider-Verse, they were talking to someone on the production team or the design team, and they said someone told them, whatever you know about design and animation, just break it. and they said, "This is what we're gonna do," and I that stuck with me. I'm like, damn, like they really like in a world where we do things over and over and redos and prequels and sequels and remakes, like they was like, nah, we doing it different,
changing it up. Well said, Chris and Amanda. Into the Spider-Verse, it's my number 2. But for the longest, it was my number 1 for rightful reasons why, as you both just said, and I respect that because it is an incredible game changer of a film. But last Friday, I was fortunate enough to see it before Friday. I saw it about a week and a half ago, and I still haven't seen it again. And I best believe I plan on. But my number 1 Spider-Man film of all time, and it's, I know it just came out, but I when I see some greatness, I acknowledge greatness and I give them the flowers. My number 1 is Across the Spider-Verse. I have a full review on my reasons why, but just to summarize it, I didn't think that they could elevate to the next level with the sequel, and I think they did that and some. Not only is it a great story of what it means to be a Spider-Man, and we're not going to get into spoilers, I know everyone hasn't seen it, but just the idea of like the sacrifice Spider-Man and Spider people and Spider women have to make is it just shows you why that's such a great superhero. Animation. Again, Into the Spider-Verse, gorgeous animation. But my goodness, the animation with part 2, with the seamless blending of all the different Spider people interacting on one screen. Of course, we got that with the first one, but this was just times 10. Beautiful animation, and shout out to all the animators that worked so hard on this film. And then when it comes to just, again, the build up, the setup to the ending, and again, no spoilers, but just I can't wait for the next one. And I will say, you had your Gwen statue, Chris. Gwen was such a great character. And I know some people felt like, maybe Miles played a backseat for the first half of the film. But I almost kind of look at it in the same way I look at what's going on with The Mandalorian, at least for the most recent season, that it's called The Mandalorian, not Din Djarin Mandalorian. So for those that are Star Wars fans that saw season 3, it definitely focused more on Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian, the Lord, and all that stuff. So it expanded the world. And I thought the same thing with Across the Spider-Verse. We got to see more of Gwen's story and her relationship with her father and her wanting acceptance, her looking for a band to be a part of. And again, no spoilers, but when you get to the end of that story, there's an arc there, a really beautiful arc with Gwen Stacy. And this is so much goodness going on with them. And shout out to my favorite new Spider-Man introduced in this film, Spider-Punk. Spider-Punk, nice. Fire. Daniel Brown, Daniel Kaluuya. Absolute crushed it. I love this character. I love, Spider India. I love Jessica Drew. I love all the new Spider people that we met.
Miguel.
Come on, Oscar Isaac. My man went from Apocalypse to Moon Knight to now. I mean, the dude is just legendary. I wouldn't be surprised if they might spin off, and if Oscar Isaac wants to suit up and do live action, I know someone wouldn't deny that. But it was just a game changer for me, and I just sat down and just watched that movie in complete awe. And that ending, that cliffhanger, y'all. No spoilers, but I'm here for it. I can't wait. Yeah, shout out to Miles Morales. As you all can see, my number 1 was Across, number 1 for the man that was Into, as well as Chris. So we all love that film, and we're very excited to see what Beyond the Spider-Verse does, because I kid you not, if they stick to landing with the third one, Chris and Amanda, I love me some Lord of the Rings, Dark Knight trilogy, Cap, trilogy, and there's so many just great trilogies in general. Toy Story.
Don't do that. It ain't passing Dark Knight. Don't do that. It ain't.
It's the same level.
Listen, Chris, I love me some. I love me some Bane, but that's the weakest of the trilogy. It's the Dark Knight Rises.
Low key, I think Batman Begins.
Dark Knight Rises. Nah, did she just say that Batman? Nah, hold up. Nah, she didn't say Batman Begins is the best.
No one heard me. You're listening to Elliot.
We will have a Spider or a Batman conversation, maybe in the coming years, with the new Batman with Robert Pattinson or The Brave and the Bold. We'll get to a Batman discussion one day. But listen, I'm excited for that trilogy, and I'm excited to see what they do with Miles Morales. But hey, that is our 1 through 10, or 10 through 1. You guys can leave yours in the comment section. Let us know what you think of our list. This was a lot of fun to go over our films. You're going to want to stick around and check out our tier list of putting all of our Spider-Man on a list and see where we wound up. But again, let us know in the comments where your rankings are. Remember to like, share, comment, and of course subscribe to not only myself, but of course Amanda and Chris. Their links can be found in the description of this video.